Welcome to More Than a Few Words, marketing conversation for business owners. This is your host, Lorraine Ball. And today we're going to talk about making AI personal, giving your marketing a small town feel with AI. If that sounds impossible, it's not. And my guest, Peter Murphy Lewis, is going to help us figure out how to do just that. The founder of strategicpete.com, he is a seasoned fractional CMO, and he steps in when CEOs are swimming in data but struggling to convert it into growth. Peter, welcome to the show.
Lorraine, the name of this podcast should not be more than a few words. You have so much personality. Your voice is amazing. Your energy is amazing. I'm glad you're on YouTube because you have so much more than just words and a voice to offer.
Well, thank you so much. My mother said I was born talking, so the show it was a natural. But enough about me, because people can find out about me later. I loved this topic when we were kind of kicking around ideas, this idea of using technology and AI, which to me can sometimes feel a little stiff and impersonal, to give a neighborhood feel to your marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I start?
I think I would start with learning to ask the right questions of AI. And then beforehand, when you start to get the right answers, start to compile the questions that you asked and the answers that you got into a Google Doc. Let's call it, I'm going to use some technical language, but I think you'll understand, your fans and your audience will understand. I take that information, I turn it into something, the Google Doc, and I just call it a context library. It's because I'm a marketing agency, so I have clients underneath me, and I need to understand what the context is of what they do inside their company. So let's give a practical example. So Lorraine asks, hey, I need you to write an email for me towards my email list and tell them about this new service that I offer. Well, it's going to give you something back and it's going to be bad. Then you need to say, okay, that doesn't sound like me, right? Like I'm from Kansas. I'm Wichita. I speak like in a high school level. I use some slang, even though I'm 44 years old. I'm a man, but my favorite color is pink. So then you start to adjust it, right? And then the email is going to get a little bit, oh, you know what? My subscriber database is mostly 30-year-olds that are startups. They might have just finished college. Perfect. So you start to get this down. Once you refine it, everything that you gave it, you need to then put in one central doc. And that central doc is what you need to feed to your AI in the future. And then there's two other small steps that you need to add to it. You need to add to it a standard operational procedure around each item that you're asking it to do. So like, what do you want it to do for an email newsletter is different than what you want for a LinkedIn post. Like LinkedIn post, you need a hook so the person clicks read more, and then you need short and long blasts of copy. For an email newsletter, could be completely different. It depends on what your industry is. So the second thing is the SOP. And the third thing is it needs to find out your voice, right? So if you haven't had the opportunity and the blessing to be on a podcast like yours, Lorraine, or somebody else's, record yourself. Ask yourself 15 questions. Who do I help? How do I help them? What do they like about my services? What do they say about me to other people? How do they describe me? What are the number one ways that I can have an impact on them? Write these questions and then just jump on your cell phone, record it only with audio is completely fine. Transcribe that audio and tell AI this is the voice of, in my case, Peter Murphy Lewis. And with those three items, you really learned 95% of AI for what you're trying to do in a startup world, in a small town, giving it that local voice.
Okay, you totally get the whole intention of More Than a Few Words, because you crammed so much great information into those first few minutes. I just want to stop, let everybody catch their breath, and I want to just hit those 3 points again really quick. The first is you got to kind of have that series of questions that you refine so that every time you go to AI, it's not a new adventure. It is learning, you're learning, and you're capturing those questions that get AI moving in the right direction.
Mhm.
The second thing is having those standard sets of instructions. I know I have them. I have a standard set of instructions when I give it a transcript for one of these conversations. How do I want my summary? And once I figured that out, oh my God, it's so easy. I just paste that in and boom, I get it. And
Mhm.
the other thing is that voice. If you're fortunate enough to have some written articles in your voice, great. But the recording of your answering the questions, that is so powerful, not just to train AI, but I'm going to tell you that makes great content just in that raw, unfiltered form. But
Mhm.
okay, I've got my standard procedures, I've got my voice, I've got my key operating. Now I want to put it all together and get out there. Any other tips for how to use this to really create that very personal, very neighborhood feel?
I think the key thing after you get the voice and then you get the context library is where if you're going to maximize your time, your effort, your money in AI, it's go back and get the SOP, the standard operational procedure, and start to adjust one for each new thing that you're working on, right? Because for example, I'm from a small town in Kansas of 2,000 people. When I speak to my high-end private equity clients, I'm still Peter, but the way that I approach it, the jargon that I use, right? Like I'm on a board of a bank. I talk like a bank board member when I speak to my private equity clients. When I'm speaking to, I have a smaller client in Wichita. I speak differently. The
Mhm.
SOP to those people is different. The voice of Peter is the same. The way that I'm going to communicate with them is different. When I'm speaking to people on LinkedIn, I'm speaking to executives who need some type of fractional chief marketing officer to come in and organize their chaos around agencies. That SOP for LinkedIn is completely different than what I do when I'm on YouTube. When I'm on YouTube, I'm speaking to like a 30-year-old who got sent off by a CEO to like go find me somebody who can solve my PR, my podcast pitching. So think where your audience is and your SOP will line that up for you.
It's so funny. When I first started doing this, I didn't really think about it much, but I changed my wardrobe. If I was going to a professional networking event, I did not show up the same way as I did when I was going to the startup weekend pitch night, or if I was going to run startup weekend. And learning that I wore different things, it's natural that I would say different things.
Mm.
You
Ah,
naturally make those adjustments when you're talking to your mother or your best friend.
yeah,
Why wouldn't
I'm
you
gonna
do it in context?
steal your analogy of outfits. I think it's fantastic. I do a lot of trade shows. I'm gonna even go even to one further. I'm gonna take it a little bit further and be a little bit more absurd so your audience remembers this podcast. When like when I go to dinner with my wife's friends, I
Mhm.
know that I need to take a back seat. I am not the center of attention. It's my wife and her friends. I purposely dress down. I wear darker colors. I might even wear my traditional black glasses instead of my pink glasses, right? Like my personality hasn't changed, but my standard operational procedure of what I'm trying to achieve. If you're a marketer, right? Like you have a significant percentage of people are marketers or salespeople. You have a creative brief. Your creative brief is what are you trying to achieve with what you're about to do, whether it be a
Mhm.
tactic or a strategy or a campaign. It's the exact same thing with AI.
Awesome. That is absolutely brilliant. I love those examples. I'm just curious because every week there is a new tool. Do you have a favorite that you are relying on right now?
Ooh, it's a long list. I'll go through a couple. So I like Press Jockey for PR.
Mhm.
I like Break Cold for LinkedIn. I like typingmind.com for pulling in all of my AIs into one place and organizing my context libraries. My favorite community for AI is copyclub.com. We should get those founders on the podcast with you. You will love them, Lorraine. And I think I'll stop there because if I mention any other subscriptions, my wife will be mad because she knows that I've increased the credit card bill with new software.
I think that is the reality that, quite honestly, you mentioned a few that I had not heard of, and a month from now there'll be a few more on that list. And my apologies to your wife. You're going to have another software on the bill.
It's true.
But I'm going to put a pin in it here. I am going to suggest that if you are listening to this conversation and you want to know more about how to add that personal touch to your marketing, hop over to strategicpete.com, check out what he's doing, look for him on LinkedIn. Pete, thanks for being a part of the show.
It's my pleasure. If anybody wants me to set up those prompts with their voice and give them some SOPs, tell the first 5 people reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll create that for them.
Fantastic. Thank you again. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, if you'd like to find other resources for your business, hop over to morethanafewwords.com. You'll find hundreds of conversations just like this one, webinars, workbooks, and so much more. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.